recently was speaking to a client who was saying that she was talking about cluttering, like decluttering.
Yeah.
And I know that that's something that we've talked about, and obviously you do that. So do you think you can give maybe some like tips or some hints of things that you can do? Because I know that it just seems to be the more you can make room for better stuff, the better it is. And it's a lot of people have trouble getting rid of the stuff and they don't even know where to start.
Sure. There's all different ways that you can approach it. And you kind of covered a bunch of different things like all at once, like in one sentence, which is that sometimes it can be a challenge. Sometimes you don't know where to start, but the more that you can make room, the better. And I would say starting with that idea of sometimes it's called the low-hanging fruit. At the easiest thing, sometimes just going through a room and checking for garbage and for things that do not belong in that room can make a huge difference for the space and the energy. So that's a great place to start. Then from there, sometimes it's like, I think it's recommended, like in the Marie Kondo book, for example, she recommends starting with clothing. I like to recommend sometimes doing something like a kitchen or a pantry or a closet where you're not going to be hitting a lot of emotional stuff, but it's really more like the practical stuff. Or I guess clothing, maybe kids' clothing that they're outgrowing, things like that maybe feel a little easier, where it's just, okay, I just have to get to this. But once I start making those decisions, I'm not going to be, in the corner flipping through memories and I don't know what to, let go of. It's not like that. It's more of the practical side of things. And the good news is that once you start doing that, you start to build that muscle and build that momentum that makes you want to keep going.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Because that's what it is. I think that's exactly what happens. I'll go through my closet and I'll start going through things. The next thing you know, I've taken out all these picture books and I'm like, I remember that trip that I went to 10 years ago with so-and-so. And yeah, there's all these different feelings that come up. It's interesting how much emotion goes.
Yeah. And you can get caught up in things. Another tip that it's something that I do constantly when I work with clients on actually organizing a space is if you are going through a room, let's say where the focus is clothing, or maybe it's books, or it's the kitchen or whatever, and you hit paper, don't get caught in the trap, because then you start reading it, like suddenly you're reading a contract from 1997 and then like a half an hour goes by. So making sure that you separate it out and understand that different organizing jobs or different decluttering jobs are meant to be at different times. And I always say paper is its own beast. Photos and memories and keepsakes, also their own category, because they will catch you up. So it's kind of like stay on target, come back from that, just set it to the side, have a bin ready to go for it, move it along, and get right back.
That's good. I like that, because that actually helps you stay more focused.
Absolutely. And I think when I was just actually saying this, it wasn't even so much about like necessarily decluttering in that tangible sense, but the idea of any kind of task that you're trying to keep on is if you can contain the scope a bit, it really helps. I do theme cleaning for the week. And so it's encouraging for me, because we can get so exhausted so easily, to be like, no, today's bathroom day. So I know the living room a little, and so I can certainly make a path through it or pick up some basic things. But that crazy bookshelf that really needs attention, I don't have to think about that right now because it's not living room day. It's that kind of idea, right?
I love that idea, because I remember as a kid, like Saturdays were cleaning, and that's what we did all day. We didn't go anywhere. We didn't do anything. We just cleaned all day Saturday. And then Sunday we went to church, and then we got a little rest in the afternoon on Sunday. But it was like always nonstop. We were kids. We went to school full time, had to do our homework. Then all day long was cleaning and doing yard work and everything else. And then Sunday was family time, but 5 hours of that was church. And then we got to do a little bit more relaxing, but it was never really a chance to really unwind and have a good time together.
I love that you brought that up, because that's exactly the reason that I've done this kind of approach in my home, is so that we can free up our Saturdays more. I mean, don't get me wrong, there might be some catch up in there. Frequently it's the let's catch up on laundry, but you can squeak that in a much shorter time period. And then the kids can have some activities, and then we can have more family time. I'm a big fan. Not everybody likes this. There are some people who do like to take a project and do it all in one fell swoop. And if that feels right for you, great. But I know for us, chunking up things like that over the course of the week really helps. So, and for that reason, exactly. So then we can have fun. My kids are at great ages right now for us to go off and have adventures. And so it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, and that's what like my husband and I have that conversation, and he grew up in a very perfectly clean, like you can eat off the floor at all times family, and that's amazing. I give his mom a lot of credit. She had 4 kids. I mean, I don't know how she did that. I didn't really as much, but we were, for me though, I think I've come to the point in my life where things to me have not become as important as the experience. And so I've really tried to focus on, especially, I have a 2-year-old son, and and trying to juggle already work and home and, having a business and doing all these different things. I want to be able to have my time with him. So like, I want to be able to take him to go play games and to have him, bring him to a park or let him go play. And I don't really want to be carrying that, my floor isn't perfect, or that there's dishes in the sink or something like that. It's not as much, my car's dirty and I don't want him to be worried about spilling something to freak out. It's like, it's just a car. It's just stuff. It's not important.
Totally. And what they're going to remember is the time you spent. And not, and that's definitely how I live as well. And as you know, from the last time we talked, when I was a caregiver for my mom, I learned a lot of those lessons because I had to let so much of it go. And then once she was gone, I was like, well, how do we want to live? I'm like, well, I want to make the most of every minute with them and go on these adventures and have fun. And yes, I do think there's kind of a sliding scale, because I know there are a lot of memes out there of like, the dishes can wait. And I do agree with that to a great extent. You can eat off the floor in my house if you don't frighten easily, and if you put down a towel, you know what I mean. But but at the same time, having things in place and put away and bringing rooms what I call back to neutral and stuff like that really helps with the flow and function. But there's a great happy medium in there. When you get really efficient about it, you learn how to speed clean, and you time it right so that you have, you take care of those things, but then you can focus on what's really important and go value-based. And we just happen to agree on that.
And that's, it's funny because one of the, with my coaching clients, we talk about the incompletes and the things that are not complete. So yes, the dishes can wait, but if you did it right away and put the dishes immediately from dinner immediately into the dishwasher, because most of us have dishwashers, or just as a family maybe wash them together, or whatever it is to get them done, done. So instead of you worrying about while you're trying to do work or do something else and you're thinking about, oh, I still have to do the dishes, it's already done. And it's something that's one of the incompletes. Obviously the incompletes could be a much bigger deal. Cleaning out a family member's house, or something else that's a bigger deal, an apology that you haven't made, or, something that's a much bigger thing. But it kind of starts with those little, we're constantly thinking somebody else is going to do the dishes for us. And we're constantly leaving these things for somebody else to do or to worry about some other time. That comes to play in other areas of our life.
Absolutely. It's a do it, delegate it, or dump it, right? It's you have to address it in some fashion. And I would say conversely, with the little things that you're talking about, or what I call the little habits and the incompletes, is that if you hit them quickly, they're much easier to deal with. And then if it builds up and builds up and builds up, that's when you're like, oh, I don't even know how to handle that now, or I have no energy for that. Whereas if you do it quickly and do it, that's why I'm a fan of the small chunking. It's the same idea,
And that's why so many people give up. Because it gets to that overwhelmed part of your life and you're saying, oh my gosh, I have so much I have to do. You know what? I'm just going to do nothing. Or why bother? I haven't done it yet. Why bother now? And again, you know, even getting off of the house cleaning part, you know, I think that that's just really what really overwhelms people, is feeling like, oh my gosh, there's so much that needs to get done and don't know where to start. And I always use the old adage, well, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, you know, and please don't anyone eat elephants. I love elephants, but
yeah, no. I don't find them tasty either. Thank you. Not that I even know, but yes, it is that same idea of taking a bit at a time. One of my favorite books, it was one of the first that I read when I was in my own state of overwhelm, is The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson.
okay.
And it's the idea of the compound effect, which is also another book that I've read along the same lines, of the idea of small, correct, consistent, applied tasks or efforts really do have a compound effect and add up over time. Mm-hmm. So that overwhelm is often when you have too much to do, or I think sometimes life, we have too much to do. That's how we live. So then to me, the next level of that overwhelm is the not knowing what to do next, or fearing that you're going to forget things, and not that's where I work with people on like the habits and the scheduling and containing what needs to be done and setting aside what you don't have to focus on right now, and being able to focus on the tasks at hand. So I think that idea, that same kind of like one step at a time, the overwhelm is when you think, oh, what's the point? And I found that The Slight Edge was, because there was a time when I felt that way. And that was really encouraging to me to think, okay, well, whatever I'm doing right now seems like it's not that much, or not really, like what good could this possibly do? Right? Mm-hmm. It's like you have a small cup and you're trying to bail out a boat, right? Or something. And yet it's the idea of thinking long-term and having a bit of a leap of faith in it.
Yeah. The turtle in the hairs, like continually keep trying.
Absolutely.
I have a client right now and she knows this, is that one of the things that she's trying to work on and that she shares is that she's constantly feeling like I'm not as far as I want to be, and I'm not doing enough right now. Mm. You know, it's great to be able to remind, people that we work with and say, hey, well, look at where you came from. Look at how much you've accomplished. And yes, you might not be where you want, but that's not where you are. And, you want to be at this place and you're getting there, and every day you're moving in that direction. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it. Mm. I think what's great about what we get to do is we kind of get to, before people fall too far backwards, we kind of are there to hold them up before they get back down to, despair, so when they start to get that feeling. So I think it's just great to be able to say, hey, you have made some really great progress. Hey, look at all these great things that you've done. And whether it's emotional or it's, actual things that you've done, like cleaning that, whatever it is, mm-hmm. that good reminder of those little things that are building up and becoming, a different person. And, the changes that are made over a shorter time with the right help are amazing, rather than spending years without the right help, trying mm-hmm. to figure it out and paddling your feet and going nowhere.
Yeah. And I love that. You're right. It's one of my favorite things to do too. You usually think about working with a coach and that you're trying to fix problems or you're trying to make changes. And it's not that doesn't apply, but so much of it too is helping have that perspective and being able to celebrate each session that I have. It's like, what are we celebrating? And guess what? Sometimes you can celebrate, I survived this week, you know what I mean? You and I have both been sick and we're like, I'm alive, we're doing this, it counts.
And as a mom, like, oh, I kept the kids alive another day.
Nobody's bleeding, everybody's cool, the house is still standing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so true.
Yeah, because we're juggling so much and there's so much going on, and to just be able to get through It's the hard part and like we said, like in the beginning, it's real life.
Yeah.
It's just getting through the real life. And sometimes that is worth the big celebration. It's not how much did you accomplish? It's just doing what you're doing through the storm, through whatever the storm is at that moment.
Right. Because there's so many factors that come into play in terms of our productivity. And for me, being productivity kind of being my, one of my passion projects and being a hashtag productivity nerd, right? It's the idea that it's not about doing more and getting so much done, or even about efficiency necessarily. Sometimes it's about understanding what are your values and what do you want to get done, and having that realistic goal setting. And then when you do that, then it starts to play together really well, because then you can accept that, you know what, that list is a mile long. So for me to sit back and be frustrated that I'm not far enough down that mile, it's taking away from what I am achieving. And also, there's so many factors that come into play in terms of our energy. There are some weeks where my energy is absolutely zapped. So then to do what's basically be in maintenance mode is an achievement. So yeah.
And especially, we're here in the cooler area of America. I'm in New York, you're in Connecticut, right?
So, I'm in New York also. Yeah, but just upper state. Yeah.
Which is always funny because, you're not really upstate, but you're upstate. You're not too far up there. But for us Long Islanders, everybody's upstate.
Right, exactly. Like I grew up in like what I consider actual upstate New York. And then I moved down here and everybody's like, you're upstate. And I'm like, from Yonkers maybe, but yeah. So, but yes, you're right. We are totally in the zone right now with super cold weather that can't make up its mind, and seasonal affective disorder, right? It's a real thing that people are dealing with. Just, not cold temperatures. I miss my sandals.
Come on, flip-flop weather.
I know. Come on. You can do it. Yeah, that takes a lot out of you. I tend to be really mindful in terms of productivity with how, seasonally, how we're affected. And they call it seasonal affective disorder, but I'm even saying that after the holiday season, everyone's kind of in this recovery mode, and they want to get back to things, but it's a slower move. The energy is completely different. And then even if you're ready to tackle a project, you're not going to get the same response from people. And so it's good to be mindful of that kind of shift. So
that's a good point. How do you keep your energy up when you're trying to juggle these different things?
I would say it's the same answer year round, and then I have to do it on a sliding scale in terms of shifting the amount and how I do it, but self-care. Yeah. Really, it's like, it seems counterintuitive in the old school philosophy of being productive and getting stuff done to take naps or to make sure we get enough sleep. But, we know that's what tackles the immune system and takes us down ultimately if we don't do those things. I really enjoyed before the holidays doing some restorative yoga, and I'm getting back to that this coming month. I've missed that. I can feel a difference when I don't do that. So
I'm a huge fan. All my clients always, yoga, meditation are my two go-tos that I always say to everybody: drink water, get plenty of vegetables, and rest. Those are definitely all my go-tos.
Yes. Yeah. And the restorative is new to me, and it happens to be taught by one of my clients. And I went to support her. I was like, it's yoga. I don't care. I'm going to show up. And I was like, this is amazing. And for anyone who hasn't tried restorative yoga yet, I liken it to the yoga, the physical version of meditation, really. And you do meditate with it, but it's so mellow and it's so great. You do not have to have any kind of coordination, just saying from experience. And it's really, it makes a huge, huge difference. And it's a good reminder of how important it is for us to slow down and alternate.
Yeah. And to be for me, it always brings me back to my body.
Yes.
Back to the breath. And even it's almost, because it's a moving meditation. So it reconnects everything. Where, I don't even realize how frazzled I am until yoga. And I'm like, oh, there's my breath. Okay. wow, there's tightness here I didn't know about, or there's a stress somewhere, or wow, my brain is really obsessing over something. And then at the end, it's like, I don't know, I just feel so relaxed. Of course, everyone's favorite pose, the dead man's pose at the end, where we're all just laying there.
Savasana.
That's always, but you're like laying there.
Favorite.
It's such a perfect way to just kind of end it and just feel like, okay, I'm renewed and restored to start all over again. All the stuff that's going to be thrown at me when I get back to life, whatever it is I'm doing.
Right. And what you're talking about is that deliberateness, which there's something so powerful about that, because we all tend to do this, even though like this is the thing, right, that I coach, that I talk about all the time. We get going and we get in this automatic mode, and then the shoulders come up, and then we're hunched and we're focused and we're frazzled, and we fall into that energy easily because it pretty much surrounds us.
Yeah.
So we have to be very deliberate about stepping out of that. And then that in turn helps us be more deliberate about each and everything we're doing. We end up being more productive as a result.
Yeah. To really be mindful.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I've taught before in some classes, is the mindfulness. And even just, if you all of a sudden are done with dinner and you didn't even realize that you ate anything, time to start appreciating the bite, appreciate the moment, go back to what we said, really about appreciating this moment, because you can think about the future and obsess about the past, and that's not going to help anybody at all. And to really just to allow yourself to live in this moment. And yes, you can think about it's important to plan and things like that, but to really appreciate the breath that we have right now, the ability to just be alive and have this experience. Because realistically, in the end, it was again, it's the experience. So in the end, it's like, when you got to relax and calm down and enjoy the beautiful sunset and enjoy the moments of really living, that to me is just, I don't know, it's just such an amazing opportunity. All these great things that we're doing as coaching and all these people that we're helping and all these great things that we're doing, but that's all part of our purpose, our joy and enjoying that moment of it.
Right, exactly. This is those moments that's why we do what we do, right? And so to lose sight of that in the doing, I love how my yoga teacher says, you're a human being, not a human doing.
It's true.
Right?
It's true.
I love when she says that. And what you touched upon in that mindfulness in that moment, there's an element that's one of my passion projects, which is gratitude, right? And just really being appreciative of that moment. It's very difficult to do that when you're just doing and you're not cognizant of what it is that you're doing.
And I feel that the more gratitude and everything that I'm giving out, I'm getting back.
Oh, yeah.
And if I can tell that I'm not feeling that, like if I'm feeling like angry or feel like a porcupine where like everything's bothering me or whatever, I'm not feeling the love from other people. And it's from me, it's always the mirror, right? So I'll feel myself, I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, what do I need to do? I need to meditate. I need to just take a break and get back to myself and be really mindful of what I'm doing, because I'm not giving my energy. I'm not, shining my light. I'm just kind of irritated. And to know that, and, and it's okay because we're human. We don't have to be perfect all the time.
But you noticed it, which is great. You have that awareness.
Yep.
Do you have a gratitude ritual?
No. What ideas that you have for, I don't think I really, I might, but I don't realize that that's a ritual that I do.
Oh yeah. I guess the term ritual can mean different things to different people. I use the word ritual, but also maybe you could use the word gratitude practice, but it's very specifically acknowledging gratitude, whether it's a state of gratitude, and there's so many different ways that you can practice it. And it's something that I've explored with many people. I've done a gratitude series, doing one again, actually, starting tomorrow. Awesome. And it's this idea of, first of all, exploring what gratitude really is. But then in terms of the ritual, it could just be a way in which you carve out time, just like with meditation or anything else, where you acknowledge that sense of gratitude. Many times people will start off with something simple. The way that I started off was first thing in the morning, 3 things I'm grateful for to start the day and get myself in that positive mindset, really. As some people like to do it in the evening when they go to bed. Some like to do a gratitude jar. I have a client, I recommended this and she liked the idea. 1 slip of paper per day. That's it. Just one, where she wrote down something, just some good thing that happened, something she's grateful for in that particular moment, that particular day, puts them all in a jar, and then on New Year's, took them all out and reviewed them. Right? Yeah. And some people do journals. I do journal, but I hadn't done a dedicated gratitude journal only because sometimes I have to combine things and be a bit more efficient. Mm-hmm. So for me, I do the practice in the morning before anything else, before I acknowledge or talk to anybody else. And then sometimes we'll do like what I call sort of pop-up gratitude practices. For example, my family and I, we celebrate Lent and Easter. And so during that preparation time, we will have a basket at the kitchen table with slips of paper, and each of us will put in 1 per day. Mm-hmm. And then on Easter, we'll read them all to each other.
Well, that's a nice family tradition to have.
Right. So there's so many different ways that you can do it. Whatever works for you. I think the real key is acknowledging the moments of gratitude and somehow either documenting them or sharing them. Some people have gratitude conversations, and that's a wonderful way where you're exchanging that energy, just like you said. So
yeah, I like that. See, I normally start my mornings with intentions, intentions, and I'll even start out like before I get out of bed. It's the definitely the grateful for taking that breath and like, oh yeah, I get to do this again. So there is that little bit, but I like your ideas of kind of adding that into maybe some of my instead of just the positive intentions. And because before I get out of bed in the morning, I like to think of what my day is going to be like. And it's going to be a positive, it's going to be, and try to go through and look at how the positive outcomes are going to be.
I love that. I think they both go well together. And I think I'm going to take from yours and maybe we'll both kind of slightly modify our mornings. So I'll take the gratitude and then add the intentions and what I'm intending to put out into the world today. And then you can just add in the gratitude part because it's kind of already there. Yeah. Like when you're wanting to put that positive energy forth, when you're wanting to help and heal people and really just be part of that, there's an inherent gratitude in there, and now you're just bringing it to mind a little bit more.
Yeah
I like that.
Well, it was great chatting. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up? I think we covered a lot of stuff.
I think so too. I think, this happened before that I think we could just talk forever, but let's let it go with this. And I think just encourage everybody one step at a time, right? To pick one thing that we chatted about where you're like, hey, I kind of like that. My favorite advice is to say, when you want to make a new change, new habit, is to look at something where you go, I could do that, as opposed to, oh, how am I going to do that? Just think, pick something out that really resonates with you and say, I could do that.
Yeah, and try maybe an easy one at first and accomplish that goal, and that'll give you a little bit more courage to say, hey, I can do another one, and then it starts the momentum going.
Exactly. That's great. I love it. Thank you, Stephanie. I love chatting with you.
And don't be afraid to get help. We all need it.
Oh, yes, exactly. I mean, not just because that's what we do and it's part of why we do it, but there's no shame in the asking for help game, right? At all. It's quite the opposite. It takes a lot of courage to say, you know what, I need help. And also, you fast track things. You go so much faster when you have a partnership with somebody who's dedicated. Absolutely true.
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was great chatting.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it, and I look forward to doing it again.
Yeah, we definitely will.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.